It's over. You can game it as much as you want to. Israel's approval has fucking plummeted, even in Europe. Israel's net favorability in various European countries per YouGov. UK, minus 46. France, minus 48. Germany, minus 44. Denmark, minus 54. Spain, minus 55. Italy, minus 54. Now, as I was covering yesterday, the Washington Post and many other outlets reported that at least 31 people were killed Sunday morning in southern Gaza, according to Strip's health ministry, when Israeli troops opened fire on crowds making their way to collect aid. Okay? The Israeli government's initial response to this was, no, that didn't happen. And then their response was, because there was too many eyewitnesses and too much footage of the event, they said, yeah, we did open fire, but it was actually 1 kilometer away, like half a mile away from the actual aid area, despite the fact that these were people trekking for 7 miles to get to the aid area. So yes, it was near the aid area. Okay. And they got the Washington Post to basically issue a correction, a ridiculous correction, claiming that this was blood libel once again. And of course, the cowards over at the Washington Post corrected their and deleted their post below because it and early versions of the article didn't meet the Post's fairness standards. The background: early versions of this article on Sunday stated that Israeli troops had killed more than 30 people near a U.S. aid site in Gaza, with the headline attributing the action to health officials. The article failed to make clear if attributing the deaths to Israel was the position of the Gaza Health Ministry or a fact verified by the Post. The article and headline were updated on Sunday evening, making it clear that there was no consensus about who was responsible for the shootings and that there was dispute over the question. While statements from Israel that it was unaware of injuries and that an initial injury indicated its soldiers didn't fire at civilians near the site were included in all versions, the Post didn't give proper weight to Israel's denial and give improper certitude about what was known about any Israeli role in the shootings. The early versions fell short of Post standards of fairness and should not have been published in that form. This is why they dropped passive voice for a second. They dropped passive voice for 1 second, and immediately Israel pounced on them. Okay? How insane that they would try to correct it by basically offering weight to the institution that lies about everything. The Washington Post is now reporting the story about Sunday's massacre. While 3 witnesses said the gunfire came from Israeli military positions, the Israeli Defense Force denied the allegations, and that led to the obsequious apology below. Oh, okay then. Oh, Israel said they didn't do it? All right. I guess we should offer more weight to the state that has routinely lied for the past 19 months. This has conducted an ethnic cleansing campaign. Incredible. Incredible stuff. An Israeli military official later said the troops had acted to prevent several suspects from approaching them overnight and fired warning shots at the group, but there was no connection between this incident and the false claims made against the IDF. Let's watch.
Eyewitness after eyewitness, same story. The Israelis fired on civilians near aid points, killing and injuring scores of civilians in recent days, they say. Moreover, repeated testimony that they used drones to do it.
We were there lying on the floor since 4 a.m. and the drones were firing at us. The Israelis were firing at us. People were crouching on the floor, women and children. And in the end, all we left with is a can of fava beans.
Israel has not directly commented yet on its use of drones in these recent incidents. But it is a world leader in developing military drone technology. For these drones, sometimes called quadcopters, firing bullets is certainly possible.
We know of a lot of companies that advertise drones with small caliber weapons mounted on them. We know that the IDF has worked with some of these companies.
And a UK doctor who'd worked in Gaza gave this evidence to Parliament just a few months ago.
What I think I found particularly disturbing was that a bomb would drop maybe on a crowded, tented area, and then the drones would come down.
You reported on these drones a long time ago. Only now mainstream media is reporting on it. Yeah. Drone copters that have snipers attached to them that snipe children is something that we have covered months ago. Drone copters that actually provide surveillance and also directly speak to the Palestinians. Also covered that months ago. Only now is mainstream media starting to cover this. Even this is months after the fact that surgeons that went to Gaza came back and reported on the victims that were children. Drone copters that play the sounds of crying children in an effort to draw out Palestinians that are trying to help people in need, only to shoot and kill them. Again, they are basically at least 5 to 6 months late to the game. Even after there was direct testimony, even after there has been verifiable evidence that we have seen from people's phone camera footage. I saw, I believe, an ABC or NBC, one of those like foreign, one of those reporters, conflict reporters, talking about his interview with a doctor in Gaza. A doctor in Gaza that in the midst of the interview was interrupted by a drone that flew directly to her window and started yelling commands at the doctor, asking about like who she was talking to and things like that, demanding that none of this is actually filmed. Nightmarish dystopia.
Down and pick off civilians, children. And we had...
Yeah, Al Jazeera's investigations unit covered quadcopters on December 2nd, 2024. Palestinians in Gaza say Israel's been using small quadcopter drones equipped with loudspeakers to lure them out of their homes and then shoot them.
In mid-April, we were informed that Israeli quadcopters were emitting bizarre sounds, including baby sounds or women screaming. I went personally to Nusayrat and I interviewed several Palestinians separately, and the testimonies were almost identical. Quadcopters were for 2 consecutive nights on the 14th and the 15th, I guess, of April. They were emitting baby sounds, playing sounds of screaming women. The quadcopters apparently played these sounds only to lure citizens out of their homes and to find someone to shoot. And this was confirmed by actually the reports that we followed up on at hospitals. There were cases of people getting injured by these quadcopters after going out to figure out what was the sound, to try to help.
Suddenly we heard a woman shouting in the street, "Help," with a baby also asking for help. The voice was coming from outside the door. It was a quadcopter with 4 propellers. Then it headed towards the tents. We called my cousin. Don't fall for it. It's just the sound system. Abu Anas al-Shurur from this area was shot in the head. It's a baby saying, "I want my mother." This is the other thing. Like they will use these drones to basically broadcast to, yeah, there it is, with weapons. This is from Elbit Systems itself, by the way. They can be equipped with weapons. They can be equipped with sniper rifles. This has been known for months. Okay, remember, the initial reporting on this came in the month of April in 2024, only a couple months into Israel's genocide. Verification from Al Jazeera came in December from their investigative unit. Channel 4 is covering it 1 hour ago. Israeli sniper drones used in aid attacks. Gaza witnesses claim.
Description after description. This is not, an occasional thing. This was day after day after day.
Israel said that's a lie. We don't target civilians. And then there's a psychological dimension too. Listen to this sound. An Israeli drone by night over Gaza. The blaring sound of a screaming baby. The man filming says this is coming from the drone. He says if you go out to investigate the sound, you'll be shot. It's happened, he says. Israel claims it would never do anything so unethical as this.
That's so funny. Yeah, no, definitely, dude. Israel would never do this thing that Israel definitely is doing, that we have video footage of. But it's blood libel, and you're engaging in anti-Semitism for saying that. As Felix said yesterday, Felix Biederman said yesterday, when referring to the Lindsey Graham post, a couple months ago, they were like, this is blood libel. This is blood libel. Remember? Whenever we were talking about like the flotillas being shot at by the Israeli state, it was treated as though it was blood libel. It's always shit that Israel is doing in broad daylight, being treated as blood libel. But then a couple months after the fact, it just turns into something that they are advocating for. How incredible. Hold on, let me find it. Yeah. I thought it was anti-Semitic blood libel to report this. Breaking news, Israeli troops opened fire near a Gaza aid site, the military said. Gazan officials said at least 27 people were killed. Israel claims that Palestinians are using human shields. The Israeli occupying force literally uses Palestinian human shields. There's also plenty of investigative reporting on this as well. Everything is projection. Okay? Germans all across the globe are offended by your comments about the Nazi government. Yeah, this is anti-Deutsche discrimination, I know. Just a few short months ago, it was blood libel to say Israel deliberately struck aid trucks and targeted relief workers. If they hit this flotilla like they've done before, you'll have about a day of acknowledging reality before it goes back under the blood libel tab. Incredible. What's next on the blood libel situation? Israeli settlements in the West Bank are illegal under international law, but apparently it's blood libel. That's also blood libel. What's next, dude? Saying Sabra hummus is dog shit, also blood libel. You want all Jews to be assassinated. You must want the Holocaust to happen if you believe that Israel should follow international humanitarian laws. You are basically saying you want the Holocaust to happen every single day to all Jews around the world. Classic. Incredible. Yeah, this video of a Palestinian strapped to the hood of a car is blood libel. Look. Tying an injured Palestinian to the hood of a military vehicle and parading around the streets of Jenin, effectively using him as a human shield. Notice how they're also not letting ambulances pass through. More blood libel. Every single thing that I've said about Israel and Israeli military doctrine, Israeli military practice, to the onlookers, to people who are not knowledgeable about the ways in which Israel conducts itself in its ethnic cleansing campaign, at first comes across like insane shit, because everyone ultimately is so conditioned into believing that like Israel is the Jewish nation state. So obviously there's going to be a lot of haters of Israel that are coming at this approach from an anti-Semitic angle and greatly exaggerating the untold amounts of violence and the most psychotic ways in which Israel actually dishes out said violence. Okay. It's probably anti-Semitic. Even I myself have found at moments, even I have thought, yeah, this is probably not real. This seems like too insane to be real. Perhaps it's someone who made up like it comes across like it's something that was made up by an anti-Semitic person. That's how insane Israel's military conduct is. Because it is an exterminationist force. It is purely fascist. So, of course, as it goes, even I sometimes go, that's a bridge too far. I feel like you made that up, only to investigate and find out that, oh my God, no, this person was not making it up. It's actually very real. And there's funny ones like the semen commandos, like the goon squad that extracts semen from fallen Israeli occupying force soldiers. But then there's also other insane things that the Israeli government does, like the quadcopters that play the sound of crying babies to lure out Palestinians that are trying to help, only to assassinate them. It is crazy. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand how a single person I don't understand how any singular person that is a self-respecting individual in the Western media would still cover whatever the Israel is saying, and take their word as worth anything. They have so consistently lied about every single thing that they're doing, and so consistently projected all of the awful shit that they do to the Hamas organization, to the Palestinians in general, that no one who is a adult with a functioning brain should ever take what is the Israeli officials are saying seriously. They've lost that privilege. Like, all states lie, for sure. It's not unique to the Israeli state. All states lie. But what we're seeing from Israel is just like so glaringly obvious. Like, they lie in the worst ways possible, in the most like irredeemable ways possible, that you cannot treat Israeli members of the media, like Israeli officials, that Israeli spokespersons in the media, as though they're being honest. Like, you can't do that. Not Israeli members of the media. There are some Israeli journalists who are very honest. This is established military practice in Israel. Israeli soldiers have come out and confirmed that this is established military practice in Israel. So whenever they say, oh, Hamas is using human shields, remember, that is not only a lie, but also projection. Israel actually uses human shields. Anyway, let's hear more about this blood libel, though, from the most moral army and the most moral envoy of the most moral army.
Only last week, the Israeli government announced new settlements, 22 settlements.
Well, no, can we pause?
Well, hang on.
Yes.
On the West Bank, 22 settlements,
Yes.
which the international community views as illegal. They announced 22 new settlements. As a lawyer, given your adherence to the point of law, presumably you would condemn that.
Well, this is exactly why we need to be clear about how international law applies and why the notion of these so-called illegal settlements is a misnomer.
You don't think they are?
It's not a legal term, it's a political term, and it is part and parcel of a misapplication of international law to the status of the territory. These blood libels, occupation, ethnic cleansing,
Wow, so you think the settlements are not
apartheid
illegal?
and genocide are all part and parcel of the propaganda, which I would like to be able to come on to, because all of the evidence goes in.
Pointedly.
International law is blood libel, and its application to Israel is anti-Semitic. Classic. Anyway, let's get back to the other blood libel. Israeli sniper drones being used in the aid attacks, potentially, as Gaza witnesses claim.
But there is something about drones in terms of their persistence, the fact that they are very advanced, they're very mysterious. If there's a drone flying above your head, you have no idea if it's watching you, if it's going to drop a bomb on you, if it's going to target you. And that sense of sort of mysterious suspense, it adds a really dark dimension to the conflicts.
Load onto all of that, feeding the paranoia or feeding the database, or both. Debate about how far AI drone tech can now identify human faces on the ground for targeting or leaving alone. The face, indeed, of modern war.
Well, here with me now is Palestinian lawyer Melina Ansari from the Human Rights Watch organization. How should the use of drones change warfare? I mean, you'd have thought it means that whoever's controlling them knows precisely who they're pointing at, and that would reduce.
Blood libel is an accusation, a historic accusation that has caused tremendous harm to Jews all around the world in an instigation of pogroms, ethnic cleansing campaigns that Jews have faced, primarily in Europe. Okay? It is an anti-Semitic canard that dictates that that falsely accuses Jews of murdering Christians in order to use their blood in the performance of religious rituals. This is a blood libel is a real thing that took place where accusations against Jewish people in villages when there was like a drought or a famine or any sort of disease would immediately lead to a bunch of dumbass villagers saying, oh, Jews poisoned the well, or Jews actually are killing our Christian children so they can drink their blood or whatever. And then it would lead to massive violence against Jews in said villages. It's like witch hunts. Okay? It is a real anti-Semitic canard. Its modern application of this sort in defense of the genocidal apartheid state is insane, because Israel is doing these things right now. Israel is using drone copters. Israel is actually illegally occupying the West Bank and building new settlements. The notion that this is blood libel only dilutes the severity of the term blood libel. It makes people question the historic violence that Jews were subjected to as a direct consequence of the lies that people have told about Jews. It doesn't have the intended effect of getting people, when used by Israeli authorities and people who are propagandizing at the behest of Israel, saying Israel's the Jewish state, this is blood libel. The intended effect from the people using this in its practical application is that it causes people to stop and second guess themselves because, oh my God, am I being anti-Semitic right now? That's not what's happening, though, because Israel's violence is insane and being conducted in broad daylight. Can you explain what it actually is? Are you stupid? I just did. I gave you the dictionary definition. Blood libel, or ritual murder libel, is an anti-Semitic canard which falsely accuses Jews of murdering Christians in order to use their blood in the performance of religious rituals. Oh my God. Especially in the preparation of Passover bread that was perpetrated throughout the Middle Ages and sporadically until the early 20th century. This kind of lie would cause mass lynchings and mass executions and pogroms, where villagers would say, oh, it's the Jews again. They're killing our Christian babies to drink their blood. And then they would kill a bunch of Jewish people and ethnically cleanse their villages of Jews. Okay? How many more times can I describe the same thing? What the in its modern application in defense of its modern application, most commonly uses in defense of the genocidal apartheid state of Israel, where Israeli envoys will say, oh, this is the Jewish nation state, and you are engaging in blood libel. You are lying about Jews doing such heinous, violent acts. Meanwhile, it's not Jews doing heinous, violent acts. It's actually Israel doing heinous and violent acts. And these people are cynically applying a real term to describe lies that were told about Jewish people in an effort to do pogroms against Jewish people. The most common blood libel, obviously, is all the lies told about Jewish people that led to the Holocaust. Okay, but the irony, of course, the dangerous irony, of course, in this process is that this does not actually turn around and cause people to second guess themselves, to stop them dead in their tracks from engaging with the truth. It actually just dilutes the term blood libel, and it makes people think, well, obviously what these guys who are saying they're Jews, these Jewish guys are saying like Israel's a Jewish state and it's blood libel, but I saw it with my own two eyes that they're murdering children. So maybe they were lying about blood libel in the past as well. That's what happens. It is an incredibly dangerous dangerous way to try and defend Israel, when in fact, instead of defending Israel, all you're doing in this process is make the term blood libel come across like it's not actually valid at all. You're undermining the historic significance of the term blood libel by doing so. You are defanging anti-Semitism, exactly. Underscoring the dangerous dilution of changing the definition to suit Israel's goals. 1940, anti-Semitism, an irrational fear or hatred of Jews solely or primarily on the account of their Jewish identity, regularly weaponized to enable persecution, pogroms, and ultimately genocide. Blood libel, false and fraudulent accusation that Jews murder Christians, particularly children, to use their blood for ritual purposes, often weaponized to enable violence and massacres of Jews. Anti-Semitism in 2025, condemnation of Israeli genocide or apartheid and or any attempt to apply international law to Israeli conduct and or any criticism of Israel or any of its policies, particularly by individuals, politicians, and organizations that subscribe to universal values. Blood libel, the documentation and or condemnation of the slaughter of Palestinians by Israel, particularly where it concerns the many thousands of Palestinian children massacred by Israel in the Gaza Strip since October 2023. Also, any criticism of Israel or any of its policies, particularly by individuals, politicians, and organizations that subscribe to universal values. I know drones are hovering over the Freedom Flotilla. Please, guys, I know. It reminds me of the story of the boy who cried wolf. The utilization of blood libel in an effort to defend Israel's insane conduct in its ethnic cleansing campaign of the Palestinians is not actually defending Israel at all. It's not stopping people from recognizing the truth about Israel's behavior. The only thing it ends up doing is basically make people go, all right, well, obviously these people are like, these are Jews, right? They're Jews, and they're saying that Israel's violent actions that I've seen with my own two eyes are actually perfectly appropriate and being done for Jews, right, all around the world. And also simultaneously, if you ever criticize this, if you believe your lying eyes, then you're anti-Semitic. Okay, well, I guess I'm anti-Semitic then. That is the somewhat intended secondary impact of this kind of idiotic and dangerous posturing. And it is happening. It's happening every day, and it's incredibly short-sighted. If Israel thinks that this will be beneficial for Israel in the long term, if Jews are threatened by real anti-Semitism, real danger, because many people in the Western world now associate Israel's actions with random Jews that live in this country, that live in Europe, they'll be too fearful and they will have to move to Israel. If they think that this is good for Israel in the long term, they are delusional. Okay? It's not good for Jews in the short term, and it's not going to be good for Israel in the long term. The Israeli project is over. It's done. The Zionist project is done. The culmination of all of this violence will inevitably end. Will it end with actual pogroms against Jewish people and a complete separation from Israel as a mechanism of American foreign policy? Or will it actually happen in an anti-Zionist fashion with a singular, solitary, secular state for all the Palestinians? That is up to a lot of these institutions. And so far, you're taking this too far. Let them have a country at the very fucking least. What are you saying? You're taking this too far. Let them have a country at the very fucking least. What? So if we view Israel as equal to Jews, then Israel isn't a democracy but a theocracy, and we should cut them off for other reasons. Also, fun fact, the original Lego movie is far more political than you think.
Civilian casualties.
Yeah, well, it's a problem nowadays with the use of, modern technology in warfare, specifically drones. And we have seen cases such as the use of quadcopters and drones in Russia and Ukraine. And these are basically robots in control of firing weapon, even if there's a person behind the screen pushing a button. And Human Rights Watch did document several other modern technologies that are being used in Gaza by Israeli forces, like investigating and looking into the...
Like, yeah, I mean, look, I jokingly say, if you think you hate Israel, you don't hate Israel enough, but like, holy Israel's net favorability in various European countries per YouGov: UK, minus 46, France, minus 48, Germany, minus 44, Denmark, minus 54, Spain, minus 55, Italy, minus 54. Israel's approval has plummeted even in Europe, okay? Even in Germany. Because after the United States of America, Germany is the greatest ally to the state of Israel, okay? The fact that the German population also has a net negative approval rating of Israel is crazy. Yeah, this is the other one. Exactly. It's over. It's over. You can game it as much as you want to. You can try and say like, oh, well, we won Eurovision. We almost won Eurovision by gaming the voting process. Nobody is believing that bullshit. And as a matter of fact, people are getting more resentful and more angry. That resentment and anger towards Israel is valid, okay? That is a valid resentment and anger towards Israel. Make no mistake. The problem is all of the pro-Israeli advocacy groups that masquerade as Jewish advocacy groups are universalizing that anger and resentment towards Israel as anger towards the Jewish state and only leaning into anti-Semitism. They think this is a defense of the state of Israel and its activities, but all it's doing is causing people to be resentful towards Jews, okay? That is where we're at right now.
The artificial intelligence, Where's Daddy, or Lavender, or the Gospel that Israel uses to specify military targets in the Gaza Strip. And the thing is, it's dangerous. While international law and the international community is exactly collaborating and looking into how to systemize and institutionalize the use of drones, we are still seeing them being used in warfare in violation of international law.
Okay, let's come to the main news today, which is the shooting of people trying to get to these food distribution points. I mean, what's your understanding of the international law here in terms of what's happened in these incidents?
Yeah, to begin with, international law started when this whole shenanigans of an ex-military personnel company leading aid distribution. You know, the most important thing under international humanitarian law when it comes...
Where's Daddy is an AI targeting program, a part of the Lavender AI targeting program that was unveiled by investigative reporters in Israel, 972 Magazine, and Local Call. I also covered this a long time ago, almost a year and a half ago. Okay, Lavender is a target populating AI program that dictates that if you're a Palestinian, then you are very likely Hamas. Okay, it obviously is bullshit, and it almost works as a way to take away the moral culpability of killing random Palestinians from the hands of direct war criminals, but instead simply just an AI that is broken and busted. Okay, that also has an incredibly insane secondary targeting protocol called Where's Daddy. Lavender basically populates targets off of ridiculous reasons. Oh, you're a Palestinian man who is between the ages of 14 and you know, I guess like what, 65, and you got a new SIM card, Hamas. And when you as a Palestinian man come home, Where's Daddy kicks in, and it automatically informs the nearest airstrike team that the target has actually come home. That's why it's called Where's Daddy. Okay? 14 to 70. Military-aged male. When the target that is 14 to 70, between the ages of 14 to 70, actually arrives home, Where's Daddy triggers an alarm, and the nearest Israeli strike team will blow up the entire house, eliminating the entire family and its neighbors as well. That is a real part of the Israeli... What? What is this? The AI shit is so gross for many reasons, but I fear it's a matter of weeks until Israel tries to fall back on, turns out our AI was bugged. Yeah, I mean, it's a way to create plausible deniability.
To distributing aid is that it's widespread, it's humanitarian, and it bears in mind the dignity of the people in need of this humanitarian aid, and it's accessible for everyone that's in need. The militarized, you know, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is basically a militarized private contractors who are distributing aid, and we have seen notorious records of militarized aid distribution.
And I suppose Israel would say that's what was happening before with Hamas's involvement in stealing aid.
Yeah, these are Israeli allegations that we constantly hear about but never see evidence of. And really important
You've never seen evidence of
We
of Hamas taking aid? I mean, surely.
so it's not really, we don't know if it's Hamas, if it's Palestinian armed groups, if it's Palestinian gangs in Gaza, because according to UN reports, and this is what we follow in monitoring, the United Nations has clearly said there are Palestinian gang groups who are being armed so far, and they say it's not by Palestinian armed groups or Hamas, who are being armed and looting some humanitarian aids in areas under full control of Israeli forces.
Yeah, it's actually not Hamas that is looting aid. It's actually Israeli-backed Palestinian militants, criminal elements in the Strip that work in cooperation with the Israeli Air Force, with the Israeli occupying force that is doing the looting. They're also ISIS affiliates as well.
What the UN is saying, there's no way these armed gangs could do what they do without the okay or permission of Israeli forces on the ground there. You know, while we see Israeli forces use quadcopters and shooting people, why aren't they, for example, dealing with the looting? We haven't seen how Israeli forces are dealing with
What
this.
is the solution?
Yeah, the quadcopters actually offer protection to the Israeli-backed ISIS affiliate gangs in the region, and they end up killing Hamas militants that actually are trying to execute the criminal elements that are stealing and looting the humanitarian aid, by the way. Hamas has tried to enforce a curfew to the best of their ability under complete blockade and complete surveillance in an effort to reduce the looting. And yet these guys operate off of red zones inside of Israeli command centers that are created in red zones, like kill zones, where any Palestinian, armed or not, instantly gets assassinated by the Israeli state. They get to operate in these areas all day, every day. Yeah, this is the guy, Yasser Abu Shabab. He's running a checkpoint in Rafah under Israeli protection. And in that checkpoint, humanitarian aid trucks, people who are delivering humanitarian aid trucks have reported that they are actually demanding money from them as well. They're extorting the people that are delivering the humanitarian aid while simultaneously looting the humanitarian aid as well. Now, you might say, well, this is depraved. Like, why are they doing this? And the reason for why they're doing this is, one, because they are depraved. And two, the reason why they're doing this is because they want to destabilize, to the best of their ability, a region that they have completely bombed into oblivion. They want the civilian population of Gaza, the Palestinians there, to no longer be able to live or die through famine that they've created.
I'm here in the city of Rafah. Right behind me, you can see one of the distribution centers we opened in the last few days.
Yeah, he is basically saying we opened this distribution center as an Israeli military official, even though it's supposed to be not an Israeli, it's supposed to not be linked back to Israel. It's supposed to be Gaza Humanitarian Foundation.
So far, we opened 4 distribution centers, and we are intending to open more of them. We already launched or distributed more than 16,000 packages of food to the people, in addition to more than 1,000 trucks already entered Gaza, loaded with humanitarian.
The reason why they're saying this, by the way, is because you can try to claim that it's collateral damage, that for one, calculated precise strike, you ended up killing 25 children, right? Even though that's inhumane and gross, you can at least try to massage the narrative within the confines of war, okay? War, like, oh, this is accidental. All of these deaths are accidental. Now, obviously, when it reaches tens of thousands of children, obviously it's no longer accidental and no one believes it. But you can still functionally claim that this is a part of war. It's an unfortunate consequence of a war, right? But you cannot deny and claim it's also a part of war when you are directly creating a famine. Okay? You can't do that. That is part of the reason why so many humanitarian aid organizations that initially didn't want to say that Israel was doing a genocide very quickly were like, nope, Israel's doing a genocide. It's done. Okay? Why is he saying it in English and not in Hebrew? We all know it's bullshit. This is for external use only. Exactly. If you see an Israeli military official or an Israeli envoy speak in English, know that that is for you. It'll be a little different than what they say about the same exact situation in Hebrew. This is for Western eyes and Western consumption.
Aid. Hamas is doing his best, his utmost, to stop us from doing so. He is spreading rumors, fake news. He's trying bluntly and violently to stop the people of Gaza from reaching those distribution centers. I urge you not to believe every rumor spread by Hamas. We will investigate each and one of those incidents and each and one of those allegations. We are professional military, and we will do our best in order to dismantle Hamas, to release our hostages, and to spread the population of Gaza from Hamas and from Hamas leadership.
This is Hamas. It is very clear. This is Hamas. And there are people who are lying at the behest of Hamas. Many people. Terror babies. Babies of terror. Hamas babies. Anyway, let's get back
when
to
Israel doesn't accept the UN as an honest broker. It regards it as partisan and on the other side.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's not on Israel to decide whether they want to work with the United Nations or not. This is under the United Nations Charter. Israel is obligated to cooperate with the United Nations institutions. And for example, UNRWA, Israel has a unilateral treaty with UNRWA that it alone, on its own, decided to stop. Let me remind you also that the International Court of Justice is looking into an advisory opinion into Israel's obligations towards UN entities in the occupied Palestinian territory. We're talking about Gaza, which falls under occupation of Israeli authorities. So Israel has an obligation to facilitate and collaborate with the UN.
Melina Ansari, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Now, first, the head of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation resigned, saying the operation could not adhere to humanitarian principles. Now, the Boston Consulting Group, which helped establish the US and Israeli-backed aid distribution mechanism, is also jumping ship. Let's get more from our Washington correspondent, Siobhan Kennedy. Siobhan.
I don't get it. It's totally above board. It's perfectly legal, perfectly valid. Why are these guys all, why are all of these guys just escaping any association with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation? I thought it was in the name, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. What? So weird. Why are they jumping ship?
Well, that's right, Krishnan. And adding to the chaos on the ground, it's emerged now that the Boston Consulting Group, which is the US contractor that was hired to set up and run the new aid organization in Gaza, actually quit the job last week and terminated its contract with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Now, in a statement...
Yeah, BCG, Boston Consulting Group, jumping ship now while everyone else jumped out before, should tell y'all how evil consulting groups are. Yeah, I mean, we are talking about some of the most evil figures, okay? Some of the most evil entities in modern society. American Marine snipers that have now turned into mercenaries and consulting groups, okay? Think about how evil this process looks like, and this process actually is, that you got mercs that previously were American Marine snipers going, it's a bridge too far for me. I don't know if I want to be associated with this, okay? Like, that's insane.
Statement to Channel 4 News, the Boston Consulting Group said that it was doing the work for free to help set up the new aid organization. And it added that unapproved follow-on work relating to Gaza lacked buy-in, it said, from multilateral stakeholders and was stopped on May the 30th. The Boston Consulting Group has begun a formal review of the work. And while that review continues, the partner who led this work has been placed on administrative leave. Now, it's not clear what that unapproved follow-on work was or why the partner in charge...
They should say why. I think it's gross that they're trying to do reputation laundering, but not actually following through on what the reasons why they pulled out were. BCG helped design the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation model, set contractor pay rates, and manage its ops from Tel Aviv. They now say they've ended the contract and placed a senior partner on leave. Insiders say Gaza Humanitarian Foundation might not survive without them. 2 executive resignations took place. As you know, the mercenaries that I told you that resigned, including the head of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, Jake Wood, claimed that 7 million meals were distributed. IDF opened fire near Rafah site. 27 civilians killed, dozens wounded. Mass refusal by UN agencies and aid orgs to join. New GA Fed, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation director, Trump ally Johnny Moore, evangelical PR operative. Israel controls the entire aid flow. Armed U.S. contractors secure distribution. 3 to 4 hubs operate only briefly each morning, but not inside aid zones. Despite GHF's claim of safe ops, even Israeli defense officials warned of stampedes in internal memos. Boston Consulting Group says his work was pro bono, but internal sources say they invoiced $1 million per month. The UN and the WFP, World Food Program, have called the situation a tragedy and demand full access. Instead, Israel enforced a tight blockade, has displaced most of Gaza's population south, and is ramping up a new northern offensive. Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was marketed as an innovative solution, but it's become a failed militarized workaround to global humanitarian norms. This is privatized aid by design collapsing in real time. I think that it's not privatized aid by design collapsing in real time, even though it is privatized aid. It's actually a mechanism of aid distribution that was supposed to create chaos. It was supposed to be a trap. And yes, a friendship dating to 1976 resonates in 2012. Benjamin Netanyahu worked for Boston Consulting Group, of course. BCG is the Boston Consulting Group that was... Oh, I'm so tired. I just told you what their goals were with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. I just explained to you that they were doing payroll, okay? That they were working with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is not a real humanitarian foundation at all. It's directly funded and facilitated by Israel and the United States of America, the two parties most responsible for the genocide of the Palestinians. It is illegal under international human rights, under rules of conduct, to actually distribute aid by the belligerent occupier and using the aid as a mechanism to trap Palestinians or to displace Palestinians. All of these things were basically, all of these things immediately came to light. I've been covering this for months and months and months. I just repeated that point just now. And people just like don't understand, what I said 9 seconds ago and go, I don't get it. I keep repeating myself so much.
Has been placed on leave. Should be noted, though, that the Washington Post did cite sources that said that the Boston Consulting Group actually charged $1 million a month for its work in Gaza.
Has there been any response from the White House?
Well, there has been a press conference in the last hour or so, and the White House press secretary was asked about the latest shootings, and she said that the administration was looking into the veracity, she said, of the reports and wouldn't take the word of Hamas as the truth. She was also asked about the change of leadership in the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, and just listen to what she said.
Well, look, this was a creative idea that the president called for to get aid into the region. These people were desperate and starving, and the president didn't like seeing imagery of that, and he wanted to ensure that aid was brought in with the approval of Israel for understandable reasons. We will never forget the brutal attack on October 7th. And again, this is something that the previous administration was unwilling to put the time and effort into doing.
Well, she seems to imply that the whole idea of this Gaza aid group was all President Trump's. Important to say in this respect, though, that the Boston Consulting Group as a private entity presumably would have been operating at arm's length from the White House. But today, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has announced that it has appointed, in fact, a pro-Trump evangelical pastor by the name of Johnny Moore to take over running the organization.
Siobhan Kennedy in Washington. Well, a short while ago, I spoke to the Israeli government spokesman, David Mencer. David Mencer, the IDF has admitted shots were fired this morning. Why is Israel firing at people who you have told it is safe to go and collect aid when they are desperate for food?
I'm issuing a unique trigger warning. that I normally would not issue under any other circumstance, but he is just a straight up neo-Nazi, David Mercer or Menser. Why do they keep interviewing them? Well, nowadays when they interview these animals, the interviews don't go down the way that Israel would expect it to be. I mean, he's gonna rip him to shreds.
First things first, Krishnan, we're trying to divorce Hamas from the aid distribution system because Hamas were taking the aid, profiting the aid. You know, they were charging poor, hungry Gazans to get...
Brother, what would they be able to do? Like, let's say that's the case, okay? Let's walk through this. First of all, there's no evidence for it, okay? And it's bullshit. But, like, what are they going to do with the money? Is there a merchant in the tunnels that you can go to? And you just go, here is the money I got that I stole from the Palestinian civilian population. Give me rocket launchers now? Like, where do they go? An NPC vendor? Do they have a Walmart? Like, where? What are they doing with the money? It doesn't make any sense. Like, there is literally no economy remaining in Gaza. What is Hamas supposed to be doing with the money? Yeah, the Resident Evil 4 merchant is in the tunnel system. Going, oh, hello, Hamas. Time to give you browse my wares, Hamas militant. Browse my wares. I've got all these rocket launchers. All you need to do is steal money from a Palestinian child and I'll give you all of the rockets. What are you buying, Hamas?
Get this food. We're divorcing the two subjects of Hamas and aid distribution to allow hungry Gazans to get the food directly to be able to feed their families in an orderly way. Now, to the event this morning, Tuesday, the IDF have said that as crowds move towards along the designated routes towards a humanitarian aid distribution point in northern Gaza, Israeli soldiers identified several of those people. They left the approved access route. The incident occurred approximately 500 meters, half a kilometer from the distribution site. And after issuing warnings, audio, verbal warnings, warning shots were fired in the air. And
I like that they went from it's fake, it's a lie, it's the most anti-Semitic lie, to actually Hamas was doing it, to, okay, maybe we did it, but it was just a warning shot, to, okay, it wasn't just the warning shot, they were being suspiciously Palestinian in the vicinity of an Israeli occupying force soldier, so therefore they had to be assassinated. Every single time, man. Why do we play this song and dance every single goddamn time? Yeah, I mean, it's a classic. It did not happen. Okay, it happened, but it wasn't us. Okay, it happened and it was us, but we didn't kill anyone. Okay, it happened and it was us, but we only killed someone the third time in a row it happened. It's just, it's so spectacularly ridiculous.
And unfortunately, some of these suspects continued advancing towards our troops in a threatening manner. And so further fire was directed near. No, where there are people desperate for food, we want them to get the food. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. We're trying to get the food to the individuals.
Hamas, were they armed?
The IDF will be able to answer that question directly, but let me tell you, our intention is to get as much food to ordinary Gazans. In the video of the incident on Sunday, the IDF have already released that video, and it showed as clear as daylight.
That's a totally separate incident, David.
Right. Well, but this is very, very important to put this into context.
That's a totally separate incident in a different place.
No, it's not.
And there's no evidence that was even Hamas.
It's 2 days before. It's 2 days before, and these are Hamas gunmen.
They're not. They were your gunmen. They were gunmen, as I've detailed, that are working directly with the Israeli occupying force, that are ISIS affiliate militants and criminal elements in the region that get to operate within the Israel, Israeli created red zones, suspiciously without ever getting shot by any of these quadcopters, including in the goddamn drone footage that they're posting. The entire reason why they do this is so they can literally post that drone footage to be like, well, see, Hamas was doing it.
Firing on their own people, Christian.
You don't know that.
Why they're
There's
doing
no
that?
evidence for that. And it's in a
Well,
totally
we've shown you
separate
the
incident.
video.
Let's keep
We've
it to what
released
happened
the
this
video.
morning. Let's keep it to what happened this morning. Was anybody armed? Did anybody fire at the IDF?
We can't separate the two. We can't separate the two. Now, the IDF said they were advancing in a threatening manner, and obviously they felt their lives were under threat. The IDF operates under international law, not Channel 4 law, international law. And that's why it's very important. The details of this case are very important. Now, the IDF is aware of these reports and also of casualties, and they are reviewing the incident. But look, a couple of things are clear. We are not preventing the arrival of Gazans. The opposite. We want more humanitarian aid sites, and we want more Gazans to collect that food. We're encouraging it. Now, these warning shots were fired
David,
away from the aid distribution
twice
point.
now, desperate people who have been starved for weeks have been shot at while trying to collect aid. You are
Starved for weeks by who? Also, it's pretty funny that the Channel 4 reporter is in Jerusalem and he's talking to the Israeli Hasbara guy who's in Tel Aviv. Like, they could be doing this in person. I didn't even realize until this moment, like, what the I will say, these guys are, like, Western media has started to do real coverage, finally. And they're talking, Western media is covering this shit like Israel won't actually deport them or even assassinate them, which is surprising to me. Like, it's odd. Like, you're talking a big game when you're literally inside of the apartheid state, shockingly enough. But once again, this is a marked tonal shift from mainstream reporters.
are terrifying the population of Gaza even more. They're too scared now to go to collection points because they know they could be shot at by the IDF.
So that is precisely the Hamas rhetoric that they want you to publish.
It's the
And
fact
let's be
of
clear,
what's happened.
Israel
More than
is
50 people are
No, that's
dead.
not the facts, Krishnan. You have got the facts wrong because we've already shown you video.
This is also why we're trying to explain to people, like, this kind of stuff. You know how I said, like, constantly associating Israel with Judaism and then claiming that anytime you say something that, like, literally happened, someone goes, oh, that's blood libel, is basically having the unintentional opposite effect of people not going, oh my God, I should stop saying the truth now. But instead, it makes people go, okay, well, I guess fucking I'm doing blood libel and maybe you were lying about blood libel, right? Creating anti-Semitic opinions. The other impact of this is that when you constantly associate the entire planet with Hamas and you do it over and over again, as you are so openly the far greater evil in this process, doing a genocide, right? Eventually, you're pushing people to negatively polarize against Israel so hard that they start backing Hamas. Okay? Like, the very fact that any number of polls conducted in the United States of America have anything beyond like 9% support for an internationally recognized terror group that is comprised of Muslims in a nation state like the United States of America, where like we basically breed Islamophobia, okay? Anything beyond like maximum 9% is insane to me. And now we're talking about like 25%. Now we're talking about even higher percentages of people saying openly under the Trump administration, where you could possibly even go to jail for saying you support Hamas, they're actively telling people in polls that they support Hamas against Israel. What do you think was going to happen? There was that one Harvard Harris poll that was conducted that had 43% support for Hamas. 43% support amongst young Americans. That is insane to me. That is actually insane. Like, the fact that people are that tuned in to Israel's violence here is crazy. Yeah, ironically enough, this is the exact same process as how Hamas came to power in Gaza. Exactly. And as we know from all the polls that I've shown you in historic Palestine, those who do not live under the rulership of Hamas oftentimes have a much higher favorability for Hamas. So much like the Palestinians in the West Bank, as opposed to the Palestinians living under Hamas rulership in Gaza, Americans are now also showing high degrees of favorability, at least amongst the youth, towards Hamas. Once again, just like with the blood libel shit, just like with the consistent, you're being anti-Semitic if you say Israel's killing children when it very clearly is killing children. You have negatively polarized people against your position, and now you have negatively polarized people against militant resistance against the apartheid state conducting a genocide, when Americans historically have insane levels of unfavorability towards even Americans that also disrupt the pre-existing social pecking order in the United States of America, like Martin Luther King, a figure that was whitewashed in perpetuity. At the time of his assassination, had a 67% disapproval rating, okay, by Americans. Americans don't like anybody that rocks the boat. But Israel has rocked the boat so spectacularly in broad daylight due to all of the tremendous amount of positive media coverage that it has enjoyed over the course of the past 77 years of apartheid. They've basically washed aside the incredibly sophisticated propaganda machine. They've destroyed it. Billions of dollars spent to make people think that Israel is the most moral nation on the planet, the most only democracy in the Middle East, all this ridiculous nonsense. All of that is gone. It's over. And it's almost funny to see, like, since the ADO try to actively come after someone like myself who actively separates Israel from Judaism, Zionism from Judaism, and talks about this from the framework of anti-Zionism alone. And because of that, I'm the number one marker of the Israeli government. The number one target of the Israeli government is insane. Dude, worry about the actual existing and rapidly growing anti-Semitism in the West, big dog. You live in America. You don't live in Israel, you know? That's what I will never understand. It's like, do you have no self-interest? Like, there's a clear reason why you don't live in Tel Aviv, right? Because you prefer living in Sherman Oaks or Brooklyn or Boca Raton, right? You clearly have every opportunity to go live in Tel Aviv. You don't want to do that. You don't want to live there. You think it sucks. So why the f are you ruining your life here by actively associating yourself with Israel's war crimes? You're an American. You're not Israeli. You're American. It makes me so mad when I hear dudes who do not live in Israel, that could very easily live in Israel, ruining their own future and the future of their children on this nation state, on U.S. soil, by consistently tying Judaism back to the heinous actions of Israel. It's so stupid. It does not pay handsomely. You're wrong. It unironically does not pay handsomely because, like, if you think that the violent actions of this Colorado guy is, or the Israeli embassy staff shooting, which I would package as something different than this other dude, but regardless, like, if you think that there won't be violent retaliation towards people who don't deserve anything, like anything of the sort, if you think that this doesn't unironically make the United States a less safe space for Jews, I don't know what to tell you. There has never been a moment where Israel was safer for Jews than the United States of America. Never. My point is, all of this violence being packaged as being done at the behest of Jews all around the world is creating tremendous enmity towards Jews, okay? regardless of what their worldview or their position might be. That is my point. Israel is making the rest of the planet a less safe space for Jews by not only its conduct, but its constant association with Judaism, its constant false conflation of with Judaism. They attack you because you separate Judaism from Israel. As you said, they can more easily discount the Candace Owens's because she is anti-Semitic. Ironically, though, that isn't even true anymore because anti-Semitism does not carry the same stigma due to them exactly trying to tie Israel to Judaism. That is my point. That is the point I'm making, is that these guys don't mind the likes of Candace Owens or Dan Bilzerian or any number of different people who are openly anti-Semitic, who are also anti-Israel. Okay? The ADL and all these advocacy organizations don't care about those guys because they can always point to those guys to say, of course they hate Israel, they hate Jews. But when it comes down to someone like myself, I jokingly have said this before. I don't know if this is like 100% the truth or not, but I've jokingly said this before. I'm the that's actually causing Jonathan Greenblatt's nieces and nephews to be anti-Zionist. So he probably does not like that. Okay? Because Jonathan Greenblatt's nieces and nephews are never going to listen to Candace Owens and go, oh, wow, I guess Jews are actually believing the Talmud and trying to do historic baby murder rituals or some shit. Like, no Jewish person is going to understandably believe the insane anti-Semitic conspiracies. But that's the problem. And by the way, when I say I'm converting Jonathan Greenblatt's nieces and nephews, I'm not talking about literally his nieces and nephews. I'm simply stating that, there are plenty of young Jews in this community. An entire generation of potential Hasbara agents have now been, have now unironically become way more radicalized against the state of Israel for understandable reasons. You got people that would be funding Jewish advocacy organizations that would actually work as a Israeli defense organization. Anyway, let's see what this fucking dipshit has to say on Sky News.
It's in the air, and still some of these suspects continued to advance towards the troops in a threatening manner. Still, further fire was directed close to them, but not to them, but they continued their advance. So we know very well about this report, but I must tell you again that we have released verifiable footage of Hamas gunmen themselves firing at Gaza.
David,
firing
yes, but
at
the footage that you just alluded to from the incident.
I never in my life would have thought Sky News would be doing real-time pushback. Chat, is this real? It's so crazy, dude. That is believable. For months on end, when an Israeli official went on Western media, whatever they said, it was whatever I say goes. All of a sudden, almost overnight, well, not overnight, but in the past couple of weeks, people are actively going, yeah, no, the footage that you sent in is actually not from that incident. And it seems that forensic analysts have figured out that those weren't Hamas militants at all. They were actually criminal elements.
Incident on Sunday is disputed. It was not of the
I don't think it's disputed at all.
Humanitarian Foundation side.
No, I don't agree with you. I don't think it's disputed at all. It's probably disputed by people that want to maintain control of aid distribution.
Yeah, which is, of course, the United Nations.
But we're not going to have that anymore because
so
that
let's
is
talk
their
about
last
this incident.
vestiges
Let's talk about
of
this
control.
incident on Tuesday. Okay, David, let's talk about this incident on Tuesday. 27 people killed. You say there was a threat. Did they have weapons?
Well, you'll have to ask the IDF for the specifics. Points
I'm asking
about
you.
that.
You're here to speak.
Right, and I'll tell you that the IDF is not preventing the arrival of Gazans at humanitarian sites.
That was not my question, David, as you well know. Did they have weapons, David?
It's precisely the opposite. We are encouraging it. Now, the warning shots were fired away from the aid distribution point in response to the threat perceived by IDF troops. Now, We are facilitating, using this independent operation of this NGO, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, specifically, precisely to ensure that aid reaches civilians and not Hamas.
Yeah. David?
I don't get it. Is it because, like, chat, I don't understand how at this point they don't have like better propaganda. Like, I don't get it. Is it because, like, is it arrogance? Is it pure arrogance where it's like, oh, we've gotten away with this for so long, we don't need to do anything? Or is it simply like the overwhelming number of war crimes that they commit on a daily clip that it's virtually impossible for them to find better propaganda? Like, I've been covering this for years, and I feel like possibly due to the overwhelming number of people who were even remotely invested in this being like super pro-Israel in the past, whenever I would talk about like Israel striking a journalist or Israel striking the Associated Press building or, you know, Israel doing another siege, right? Like, whenever I used to talk about stuff like this, I felt like there was so much more sophisticated propaganda that from the Israeli side, or maybe it was because the overwhelming majority of information coming out immediately was discarded. Like the information coming out of the Palestinian side was like completely discarded, and a lot of the counter narratives were pushed by the only people that were invested in Israel, which was of course people who were pro-Israel and right-wing think tanks and shit. I don't know. It is truly shocking. I'm serious. As someone who's been covering this for a decade at this point, it is shocking how bad the propaganda is. I guess they relied too much on people not recognizing the humanity of Palestinians or even recognizing Israel's violence at all.
Been many, many occasions of Hamas lying to international media, and unfortunately, international media repeating those lies, and that very often leads to
we're not repeating any lies, David. I'm putting the questions to you, and as you well know, in recent weeks we have spoken to Hamas about this. This 27 that were killed, 3 children were killed, 2 women. Were they a threat as well?
Again, every bit of news which comes out of Hamas, of Gaza, is controlled by...
Of Hamas. I mean Gaza. I mean Hamas.
The terrorist organization. There have been many. I can read
so
you
we can't be trusted is what you're saying.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that you need to verify. Do your jobs,
We'd
media.
love to, David.
We
would
are
love,
not preventing
David,
Gazans
we
from
would,
accessing
as you know, David, and as
aid.
you and I have spoken about before, we would love to verify this, but international journalists are not allowed into Gaza, are they? Why not?
Well, I'll tell you very, very clearly what the reason is for that. Our priority is getting our hostages out.
Oh my God, he's getting increasingly more red. Oh my God. Bro, if Israel keeps this up, England is going to elect Jeremy Corbyn. By the way, every single one of these monstrous pieces of shit were directly in opposition to Jeremy Corbyn, including this dipshit. One of the more sophisticated Israeli operations. The IDF is now saying they'll shoot anyone trying to get aid tomorrow. Oh, nice. I like that we're at the final stage, which is humanitarian aid distribution sites in Gaza Strip will not open tomorrow. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the U.S. and Israel-backed body in charge of the aid distribution announces. According to GHF, the aid sites will be closed for a day to carry out logistics works to accommodate for larger crowds that have been arriving in recent days. GHF says it'll resume activities on Thursday. IDF's Arabic language spokesperson, Colonel Avichai Adrae, republishes the announcement warning Palestinians that travel on roads leading to the aid sites is prohibited as they are considered combat zones. There is something to be said about like dual loyalty narratives being an anti-Semitic trope in a time of like unprecedentedly open loyalty demonstrated to Israel by people who are British or by Americans in general. It is kind of wild that that's yet another thing that was like, oh, this is anti-Semitic. And it is, right? The idea that like you see an American Jew and you automatically assume that they are loyal to Israel is an anti-Semitic trope. Meanwhile, I'm sorry, but if you're an American and you're watching television and virtually every single guy that sounds like you is either over there killing children or your neighbor is on television talking about how Israel is the most important country on the planet, of course people are going to go, oh, what do you mean dual loyalty? It feels like it's single loyalty. Like Chuck Schumer yesterday. Okay? Chuck Schumer, yesterday, he's Jewish. He's the highest ranking Jewish official in American Congress. There is unprecedented harm taking place against the American population right now by the Trump administration. You have people that are getting rounded up with the Gestapo. You have the same Gestapo police coming after Democratic congresspersons and trying to weaponize the Department of Justice against Democratic congresspersons for participating in a protest against ICE in their own building. You have the big, beautiful bill that is a ginormous wealth transfer. A ginormous wealth transfer to the wealthiest individuals in society, knocking out potentially tens of millions of people off of their Medicare coverage, like the elderly who need long-term care that get it from Medicaid and not Medicare, right? Because Medicare doesn't cover their long-term elderly care needs. You have the working poor and their children that are potentially going to be knocked out of SNAP benefits to the tens of billions of dollars, right? To the tune of tens of billions of dollars. What the is Chuck Schumer doing in the process? What has Chuck Schumer done in the process? He released a video complaining about how Trump might actually follow through on Barack Obama's Iran denuclearization deal. I'm not even kidding. It feels like a joke. It feels insane. But you got the least popular congressperson in the nation unironically running around going, oh, Taco Trump, he's going to be too nice to Iran. He's doing a backdoor deal with Iran. What is the backdoor deal with Iran? Mind you, Obama's denuclearization agreement that allows Iran to enrich uranium for civilian levels. It's the same deal that Donald Trump actually ripped apart. And of course, Chuck Schumer is saying that because Chuck Schumer was against Obama's Iran denuclearization deal when he was in Congress at that point in time. That's right. Did he get punished for it? No, he did not get punished for it because he is Israel's most loyal soldier. What are we doing? He has stated time and time again that his role and his responsibility is to make the left love Israel. Okay? He stated it. He's talked at AIPAC seminars. AIPAC is a far-right psychopathic institution that Chuck Schumer has stood at the podium of, alongside every prominent Democrat, of course, which is, again, another reason why so many people go, oh, America is bought and sold by Israel. Our politicians are bought and sold by Israel. The entire Congress is like occupied by Zionists or whatever. The reason why they say that is because of this. Because you have Chuck Schumer running around at AIPAC conferences talking about how, well, these guys don't believe that Judea and Samaria belong to the Jews. Of course they don't believe that. Why would anybody believe that? Do you believe that? What a psychopathic thing to say. One of the most psychotic things, dude. Yeah. Chuck Schumer to Brett Stevens in New York Times, March 18th, 2025. My job, he told me, is to keep the left pro-Israel. Yeah. This is why he's running around criticizing Donald Trump for literally trying to do the Obama denuclearization agreement. Remember, the same agreement that Donald Trump ripped apart when he actually came into office, now he's trying to bring back. Donald Trump is, I've joked about this before. I'm like, the ultimate goal for Trump is unironically the Obama denuclearization agreement because it was a pivotal achievement for American-Iranian relations at the time. It was a pivotal achievement, okay? Probably Obama's most significant contribution to foreign policy. And Donald Trump came in and was like, nope, Obama did it. I hate it. Also, I love Israel. Am Israel high. And he f***ed it up. You know who hated it at the time? Chuck Schumer. You know who hated it at the time? Benjamin Netanyahu. When Obama put it together. Now Trump is trying to put it together. Okay? Yeah, look at his glasses, by the way. Halfway down his face again.
You can't see shit out of those glasses, Chuck. God, I hate him. I hate him so much.
He is such a weak, feckless little coward who also simultaneously is maximalist on the principles of genocide. Oh my God. I hate the way that you walk. I hate the way that you talk. I hate everything about Chuck Schumer. Oh my God, I hate him so much.
When it comes to negotiating with the terrorist government of Iran, Trump's all over the lot. One day he sounds tough, the next day he's backing off. And now, all of a sudden, we find out that Witkoff and Rubio are negotiating a secret side deal.
The Democratic Party is the party of war and stabilized global empire. At least Trump lies and says he wants to stop the wars. I know.
With Iran. What kind of bull is this? They're going
Oh, what kind of bull is this? Why won't Trump nuke Tehran? Why won't Trump nuke Tehran? Wham, wham, wham. I thought he loved Israel. I thought he loved the Jewish state. Why does he not love the Jewish state? Just one step removed from being like, do you love Israel? What are we doing? You're American. You are the leader of the Democratic Party in the Senate, dog. What the There are a million things that the Trump administration has done. Not a single peep from this goddamn demon until he's like, oh, do you love Israel? Why are you not bombing Iran? No politic here. How the do you look at the situation? How would you ever look at the situation and go, okay, well, what am I supposed to think here? Like, this clearly doesn't care about my situation. He doesn't care about healthcare. He doesn't care about making my life easier. And the only thing he is willing to position himself on is literally Israeli foreign policy, okay? Israeli foreign policy. Israel wants to bring America into the fold. Israel wants America to be more hands-on as it goes and tries to fight a war against Iran. And Chuck Schumer here is agitating at the behest of the Israeli state. There are so many things happening right now in the United States of America. There are so many awful things that are taking place. His constituents are getting f***ed over by the Trump administration. The only time he chirps is to position himself as more in favor of bombing Iran than Donald Trump. Resign in disgrace, you donkey.
Sound tough in public and then have a side deal that lets Iran get away with everything? That's outrageous.
Oh, no, we can't do that. No, I can't believe Donald Trump doesn't want to nuke Tehran. What the Obama did an Iran deal. Why are Dems pissed? Why are Dems taking the old Trump position? Because Chuck Schumer and many other Democrats are just pro-Israel. They literally represent the interests of Israel more than they give a about their own constituents. The number one constituency is Israel, okay? Here's Chuck Schumer back when Obama did the Iran denuclearization agreement. Here.
This morning, a leading Democrat in Congress says he will vote no on the nuclear deal with Iran. New York Senator Chuck Schumer's decision is a blow to President Obama, who's trying to build support for the agreement. Nancy Cordes is here with the senator's reasoning and its potential impact. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning. You know, Schumer's not the first Democrat to part ways with the White House on this issue, but he is the highest ranking, and he's next in line to be Senate Democratic leader. And so all of Congress was watching to see.
Yeah, thank God the Democratic Party ousted Chucky boy over here after he used his congressional muscle to attack Barack Obama's pivotal signature foreign policy accomplishment, the Iran denuclearization agreement, which, by the way, predates Barack Obama and was conducted only through unilateral cooperation or cooperation by European leaders as well. Like, it wasn't just between America and Iran, okay? A tremendous Herculean effort. And this dickhead is like, oh, well, Israel doesn't like it. Israel doesn't like it. Good thing. No, that's multilateral, not unilateral. Sorry. You're right.
How he would come down. In a detailed 5-page statement, Schumer said, quote, there are serious weaknesses in the agreement. It would allow Iran, after 10 to 15 years, to be a nuclear threshold state with the blessing of the world community. A short time later, Eliot Engel, another Jewish Democrat who is ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, also announced his opposition to the deal. And their announcements could give cover, Charlie, to other Democrats who are thinking of coming out against this deal.
Nancy, thank you so much.
Yeah, would you look at that? What is this? Exclusive. Alex Jones responds to Palantir hysteria and lays out what is really happening. Don't want to come across as me ever having liked Alex Jones, but man, what a downfall. We're literally in a supposed period he always prophesied of unchecked government power and openly evil corporate overloads. And now he's just like, it's all just fear mongering. Once again, I have to repeat my position, okay? Alex Jones has always been a psyop. Alex Jones's primary position is to either, one, make everything look like all conspiracies, some of which are valid and real, look silly by definition because of the association with Alex Jones, who makes a bunch of insane shit up in the process of saying one truthful thing or two truthful things. Okay? That's it. And now that we live in the post-Alex Jones world where, even the conspiracy theories have become democratized because all information dissemination is democratized. Now he has to turn around and be like, don't believe the lies. Palantir is actually perfectly fine. Palantir is turning the frog straight. Sam Cedar once said if Jones is not a CIA asset, they would create one just like him. Yeah. Hasan Reaction is one of the best ones in the React channel.